But and it is fun to see when I think of how long some of you have known me, how my work has changed. And I think one of the ways it's changed is I might have gotten a lot tighter. Which, you know, you struggle. I look at some of that early work and it was so loose. And a lot of that early work's coming back on the market because people are dying or they're downsizing. And I get calls from this guy here in town that's saying, okay, what do I charge for this? And I go, and then I say, well, show it to me. And I think one of the things I admire about that work is it was really loose. And I don't know whether sometimes that's skill sets or it's, I think it's your skill sets and what you look for, what you're looking for. I probably had higher incidences of failure back then than I do now. But anyway, so last time I was with you, I digress. But last time I was with you, I made pictures. So this time, since for the longest time people have thought that all I made was teapots, maybe I should make teapots. So I have a wheel thrown one that I'm going to work on, and then I have a slab built one, and I'm hoping I can get a lot done on both of them. Okay, this one, this simple little form here started out as just a simple thrown cylinder without a bottom. Okay, and then I've never really handled a round shape well. I just struggle with the formality of a round shape. So I've always liked to pull them off into an oval. And then I like to kind of change the dynamic of one profile versus the other profile. And I do that simply by coming in from the inside with different, you know, with my hands, or, you know, this little tool right here is nice because it has a nice soft round edge on it, and I just start pushing out from the inside, which means that I have to be really, I have to watch these pieces to make sure they're at the right stage that I can push out. So you can see I've done a little bit of altering on the outside surface of this one here. Maybe you can't see it because of the lighting. But now if I were to do, I want to do this side, I would do the same thing. I come in and just push from the outside, from the inside out. And it's sort of like I treat this in the same way that a jeweler might treat, you know, the word repoussé. So I'm pushing out from the inside, and then I'll come back in and redefine it from the outside. So push back in from the outside, which is basically repoussé and chasing, if I'm not, I might be wrong on that particular thing. So now I think I did get a light here. I don't know if that helps to see that surface now has some undulations on that surface that then I will carve once I have the rest of the parts of this teapot put together. So then the next step that I do, and rather than doing rocket science here, I'm actually recreating a teapot that I really loved, and it didn't survive a wood firing that literally blasted the surface right off. It was really a pretty teapot that didn't make it. So my next step then is to put a foot on it. Sometimes I'll do a thrown foot that gives it a little bit more elevation, but in this case, I'm just going to put a simple slab foot and then put a little bit of ornamentation on that slab foot. This is all basic slab building techniques at this point. Score the surface, and everybody always asks me what this tool is, and this is my favorite scoring tool. it's a rib that had a whole bunch more teeth on it than it does now. Because I drop it and they break off. But it was actually given to me by my the printmaking instructor at Gonzaga, and she picked it up at a printmaking symposium, and in Korea or China, they were using it to create this linear textures through the ink on the maybe the monoprints or something. She thought I would love it, and I always have.
Yeah.
So.
You don't lose it either.
Huh?
You won't lose it either.
I don't lose it. I do break it, I do drop it, but I don't lose it. So I've been looking at it, thinking, well, I bet you I could have somebody put new teeth on it once I break all of them off. But, anyway, I have worked with Slab's my whole career and of pottery, and this will take me back a little bit. I think I really learned how to work with slabs by going to a workshop by Margaret Ford. If I got that name right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was doing those figure forms then. And I just loved how she handled her slabs. But I also figured out how to store them because Spokane, we're dry over here. Even though we get the snow and the rain, and it's dry. So if I make a slab, I can't leave it out. I have to watch it and then wait until it gets exactly where I want it. So it still has flexibility, but it still also has the strength to do the stand-up strength to do what I need it to do. So once I get it to that stage I like, then I wrap it up in plastic like what you saw, and I can store it in a room, or I can store it in a damp box. But anyway, so I'm gonna for that. The other thing that I've always have people ask, what do I use to put my things together? I have my slabs and parts. I have tried a lot of things over the years, and I really end up having the best success just with this clay slurry from the stuff I throw with. And I did some stuff once with where I had deflocculation to it, or I toilet paper, and it was just a mess. And so I've had the best success. I just really feel it's important to work the slurry into the scoring seams so that you're creating that joint. And the other thing as a potter is I have trouble talking and working at the same time. I'll forget my train of thought here, so bear with me.
That is definitely a skill.
Yeah, it is. Now, because I'm not going to be able to work a lot on, I'm going to put that on. This is like beginning ceramics right now. That away.
Always good to see how others begin.
The other thing that I think is important is to do a slight indent on that slab. If you leave it flat, it has a tendency to create more tension on that foot. either creating a separation on the sides or even cracking. I always try to make sure that that slab I've used has been really well worked so that it doesn't have any seams in it, because those can open up in the firing. I kind of want this line to be here on this particular piece, so I don't know if I'm going to work the slab in too much from the outside, but I am going to coil it on the inside. And then the other thing is to remember that I probably fuss on these things for another day at least, with carvings and cleaning up lines, and then I laugh because I clean up all those lines and then I throw them into a soda kiln or a wood kiln, and it gets rid of all those things that I fussed over. But I can't help myself.
We are creatures of habit.
We are creatures of habit, yes. So I want that line to be there. I did cut it at a bevel, and I am going to put a coil down on the inside. When they start leaning already, I know I'm in trouble. How did that happen? I don't know how. I gotta do some of these steps without leaving them out, just because I can't get back in and do them later. So this coil has to happen now, because I won't get back in there. And I'm not really working that bottom foot in from the outside, so I have to do it on the inside. For the longest, I was struggling for a while, getting a lot of cracking on these feet, and finally decided in visiting with the ceramic prof Terry Gabar at Gonzaga, telling him what was going on. We finally decided that I was probably using too much clay in those joints. So if you were to do a drawing, it was just too thick. And the minute I started really going ahead and putting in that coil, but then getting rid of a lot of it, just so that it went tightly into that seam, then I quit having a lot of those issues. So it isn't a real big, thick addition that I've put in there in that joint, and it's helped. Which, on a downside, had subjects which I don't know how many of you know Terry Gabar, but he is not doing well.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Nothing like not doing well in a COVID year, where, and some of you know too well, where your loved one can't even be with you. Okay. So, the upside also is that I don't have to fuss too much inside there, because no one is going to see it. Because I don't put that big of a opening. I had a customer one time go, you're making a teapot and your hole isn't even big enough to put a tea bag into it. And I went, yeah, it's true, but and actually my teapots aren't about tea as much as they're about the form. So okay, so the teapot that I'm recreating had just a little motif on the foot that I liked, and I'm gonna recreate it. The I do like to sign it now too, because then I'm not turning it over again. Yeah, what they say, you don't try and recreate rocket science when you're doing a demo. So for those of you that are seeing this little studio of mine while I'm doing this work, I used to have a large studio for me. I started out in my studio in the 70s in an unfinished bedroom that was a 10 by 12 and in a little residential community, and then was able to move out onto a piece of property and build myself a studio that was about 600 square feet. And I decided a couple years ago in 2017, I think, to tear the studio down and rebuild it so that I could live in it and work in it. And so now I'm back into that 10 by 12 foot space that I began working in the 70s, basically, because this little room I work in is about a 12 by 12. And I've never needed to have a lot of tools, equipment. I've never had a slab roller. I've never had an extruder. I basically, my whole career, have worked with a potter's wheel and a rolling pin and hand tools. So, you know, I was for a year working in the big studio looking at it and going, well, how much space do I really need if I want to downsize? And I've been really happy in this small space. There's times when it gets small. Usually towards the end of my production before I start doing a firing, but it isn't that bad that I can't find ways to make it work for me. I rolled this little coil out earlier today and just let it set up a little bit so that when I go and flip this back over onto these coils, they won't squish. They'll have enough strength in them to hold the teapot up. Everybody's so quiet.
I'm interested as to why you have made segments in that foot.
I really like to see thanks for the question. I actually was thinking whether I should talk about it or not. I actually like, one of the things I remember listening or reading about is that the pot should cast a shadow on the space, on the floor it's sitting, or on the surface it's sitting on. And so if it sits flat, like this did before I put these on here, if it sits flat, then it just sits what we call heavy, leaden. And if I can create some sort of a linear line, which will happen on the car, on the slab built piece, then it can, even a linear line can help create that lift. That's why a lot of times you'll see potters, they'll at least bevel that bottom of the foot, because by beveling it, you also create the shadow, so it isn't sitting so heavy. But in this case, I put this coil all the way around, making it a continuous line. But I like the way it gives me some extra light through the foot of the form. I talk about that with kids, students in drawing too. I said, well, if your whole drawing is the base of it, it's all towards the bottom of the composition, then the drawing feels heavy. Or if it's all at the top, it wants to fall forward. But and I don't fuss with those, obviously, those little feet, and I'm gonna create a really tiny little coils. And then we'll get to some. I got my table wet so that my coil is wetter to go into those little joints. A lot of work to do. I could make, I've done in the past, I have made this coil decorative that I've put in there, like done a little, I don't know if you can see it. I can put like more of like a textured coil. Can you see that?
I can't see it, but I can tell you've got a texture mat there.
I've done that before, but I have a tendency to get rid of it, and so I'm not going to go to that. Get rid of the coil, work it in a little more. At some point, I would love to. I know a lot of the people that are here, but there are some I don't know. So, I'd love to know who's watching.
Well,
yeah.
Can we go down the list?
Yeah.
I actually,
What?
someone tried to get on the link last night, and I put their name in, and it popped up that they're a friend of yours, and I'm not sure if they're a friend or a relative or something. But I don't see they haven't joined tonight.
Okay. It might have been that last night was the only night they really could.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes
No one
people.
told me they were going to. So.
What's that?
No one told me they were going to.
Ah.
So
I thought it was someone that maybe you had invited.
I did post it on social media with on my that I was doing it, but I kind of left it up to everybody whether or not they wanted to spend their evening.
I see.
I
But you didn't post the Zoom link.
I did.
Did you? You did. Oh my God. That's how you get bombed. That's trouble.
I need to get rid of it, right?
If we get, porn stars coming in here.
Pornography or something showing up. Yes, right?
I was watching one of Garth Johnson's presentations, and there was all of a sudden a bunch of like kiddie porn.
Oh.
So he just immediately shut it down, which
Yeah, well, that
it was not. I mean, it was bad.
we got a crazy mixed up world sometimes.
Yes, we do. Sadly.
So I don't want to spend a lot of time fussing on this. I do try and make sure that this little edge right here is well connected so that the little coil doesn't want to straighten back out on me. One of the things I did also is I went like this and then I went like this so that I did this and then I did this so that it didn't want to bounce back also.
You programmed it.
I programmed it. Good word. Okay. Now.
Oh yeah, I like that.
And I'll kind of fuss with it and make sure that the lines are clean. I use that word a lot. I'm going to fuss with it. Is Rob Cornell still here?
He left and came back.
Oh, well, I tell you, I've been looking at his most recent T-rolls and I go, they're so loose and I just admire that quality and I can't be that way.
You can do it.
Those boxes with the hole in them, they're just incredibly wonderful.
Yeah, Rob, okay, he unmuted himself. He's wanted to meet you. He said that, you know, he did the worked with you on the Aussie project with the
A year ago.
yeah. But he said he hadn't met you and wanted to meet you.
No, we haven't. Well, we sort of feel like we're like could be brothers and all of that together.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll unmute. I'm gonna unmute myself again, Gina.
okay. Well, I want to tell you how much I really have been enjoying your T-bowls that you've been posting.
I'm totally interested in what's going on here tonight. So.
Okay.
Later.
Well, I did two spouts. You know, that's that whole thing in the beginning when they teach you how to make a teapot. Make several lids, make several spouts, because you never know which one you'll like more. In this particular case, I'm going to put it on this curvy side, so I want to actually keep increasing the curve. And so this was a simple thrown spout. And this one, this is still a little stiff. And I keep these in my damp box is just a plastic bin with a 1-inch layer of plaster in it. And then it looks like this. And it will keep things at exactly the stage that you put them in there.
Awesome.
For a week or 2 weeks. So if I've been gone for a week and I make this teapot, if I have room, I have a couple of them, I can put that teapot in this and it will come out 2 weeks later, like the day I put it in.
Perfect. Did you just pour the plaster into the bottom?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
It was got the idea actually from the some of the Archie Bray kids that come over here every year to do workshops in October, and several of them one year came and had these bins that all their work was in. That is too slick, and especially for a small space. It works. I used to have an old refrigerator, but it didn't even work like this does. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this to show you that I'm not like the traditional teapot maker. I used to, a long time ago, I used to do the little holes but I don't anymore. I just cut an opening and put this, and I actually like the angle that it is when I get done, that whether I, okay, so you know you're supposed to have the spout a little higher than the water base and where the water will be and everything. So I do try and do some of that stuff, but I don't do all those little hole things. And I haven't decided what, this is angled this way just because I threw it off center. And I never turned it flat because I didn't know. I gave myself the option of leaving more of that on there than I thought I might need. So, okay, so I'm gonna cut out the opening. And make sure I have it in the center. That might be nice. Which I didn't. I'm not concentrating. Giving myself about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm gonna bevel that cut. I do try and get rid of as much weight in the building processes as I can. That will also let me flatten that seam into the spout a little better too, at a bevel. Okay. Have a little more light in there in the inside of it. Big, oh. Redefine that seam a little better. That's just my biggest. I love that when I put things on and all of a sudden I realize it's not in the center where it needs to be.
I usually don't figure that out until after it's fired.
I have a funny line on that because I don't consider myself a functional potter at all. I don't know how many of you know Stephen Robinson from Ellensburg, but he's such a character, and he was on social media playing a music or whatever. And I had just taken a load out of, brought a load home from the wood kiln of work, and it had been pretty heavily. The last 2 firings have been pretty heavy. I'm questioning whether I can work with this younger generation that loves flame and edge to the point of oblivion. But a couple of my spouts had twisted, and I've never really had that problem. And I texted him, he was talking about his song he was playing and playing his guitar. And I texted him and I says, okay, now what's the angle I'm supposed to cut a teapot spout at to? You know, in the middle of his song. And he just howled. And maybe some of you can jump in, but he told me 5 o'clock. And then I got to thinking, well, maybe there's just as much to do with that 5 o'clock cut in how thick that, or how tight I did it when I threw it. So I don't know if that's always true. But since then, since I had that problem, I've been trying to cut my spouts off. If I'm going to cut them, I try and cut them. I've been trying to cut them at 5 o'clock. Anybody have a different opinion? Read.
Any functional potters want to jump in there?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my solution was.
What? You don't?
I started slip casting my spouts,
Oh, there you.
and I could cut them any way I wanted, and they wouldn't alter.
Well, you know, and I have never ever been able, like this piece is derivative of the piece that didn't make it. I've never had good success with templates and making things over again and stuff. So a spout that I admire that work a lot that you do, Ken.
Oh.
I understand how come a cast spout will not distort, because aren't the particles lined up every which direction?
I think so. Yeah, they're not in a spiral anymore.
Spout, they're lined up like this, and then they wanna unwind. As far as I know. What is some of the great phrase that ceramics is the longest learning curve of all of the arts? Learning curve. I think it's very true.
I'm not sure I've heard that, but it's certainly, you know.
I think it's very true.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still learning, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
1,000 Ways to Die.
There's Lauren speaking up.
Lauren, what did you say? 1,000 Ways to Die?
Volume 1, 2, and 3. And then there's the Glaze book, 1,000 Ways to Die.
Well, we should have a party.
We are.
I've been so isolated over here. It's just like, really? I'm probably going to relax that line that's right there. You know, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow. I'll probably relax it so it comes in a little bit lower. So I'll add some clay, but I'll probably still try and keep the line. There's some carving on this that's going to happen. Like, I think there's a leaf that's going to come in over the top of that spout. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Does it help when I put the light on it? So there's
I could see it. I could see it better before. Sorry.
Oh, before. Okay. I'll get rid of that. So there will be some carving that's going to come up onto that spout form that'll help integrate it on both sides. This one has, I think this one, the leaf comes all the way up to here, and I'll get rid of all of that by adding 3. And rather than doing all the carving on this piece, I'll show you one that's done. So I'll come in and I'll add clay to that to get rid of that seam down into that leaf form all the way. But then I'll leave the line. I do have a big background actually graduate school, I didn't go for ceramics. I went for drawing. And all my years teaching at Gonzaga, I never taught pottery unless there was a sabbatical position that needed filled. I always taught drawing and composition, so I have a tendency to, one of the things I've enjoyed with this older work, or this more, I guess, more mature work, is that I really do a lot more drawing on them than I used to, and I guess we can thank an artist here in town named Harold Blaze, who's now passed away. He looked at me once, maybe a couple, 15 years ago or something. And I was at a show where I had some of my drawings, and I don't show them that often, but he looked at me and he says, "When are you going to start drawing on your pots?" And he said, "Next time I see a show of your work, I want to see some drawings on your pots." So, and then that's when I actually did, because of that suggestion, started doing a lot more drawing. I was relying a lot on just texture, line and texture. And so I've really enjoyed this drawing process. Okay, so then today I threw 2 of these little small bowl forms. They start out looking like, just looking like this. Get them to where they're have some strength to them, but not a lot, and put them on the potter's wheel and trim the opening into it for the lid. And I flattened one of them a little bit today. Now I can't remember what side. It's this side right here. So that it comes up a little bit. There we go. Try and make sure that that's level. Remove a little bit of this just to keep the weight. Level it. I also found that if I can keep things, little wads of, because hand building, you do accumulate a lot of scraps, and I am at the stage where I really don't like recycling with my clay pugger that much. It's a big job, and so I've gotten lazy, and so I do try and keep it misted, and that way it just, usually I can grab it and work right from that wet stuff that's sitting on my, so I have a lot less scrap than I used to have. Because I've conscientiously tried to keep the scrap so it's still workable.
What clay are you using for your soda fire? And is it any different?
I actually had a young gal that's in, so when I broke my wrist this last year, I had a young gal that came, and we recycled all my clay, which was a mixture of a lot of B-mix, a lot of Kleiber, a lot of WSO, and maybe some OH. So a lot of the like clays that I've played with. I have a tendency to use. I really do like V-Mix in my soda kiln, and I've had pretty good sex. I use V-Mix and Fiber, but this past year, our professor at our ceramics professor at Whitworth College, he misordered some porcelain. It came the wrong kind, and it was a Takahara. I think that's the name of it. And I used that, and so he offered to sell it to all of us for like $10 a box. So we all bought some, and I really like that. But because I have a whole bunch of recycled shop clay right now, this spring firings are almost going to all be shop clay recycled. This clay right here is V-Mix. I wanted to make sure I use something really plastic for a demonstration. And my shop mix is never that plastic. I mean, it's plastic, but it doesn't have a lot of, it throws beautifully, but I'm not using a de-airing pugger. I'm using an old Alpine pugger that actually belonged to Gonzaga, or to Pacific Lutheran. And when they had to get rid of it because it didn't have one of those knee things to kick it off if there was an emergency. So they couldn't allow to have it in the classroom. So they put it up for sale on the Clay Art or Washington Clay Arts newsletter, and I bought it from them, and they put it on a truck just like Reed and Rick put their kiln that I bought from them on a truck and delivered it over to Spokane for me. And I've used, gosh, that thing, I've been using that now for a good 30 years. At least once a year I'll kick it into gear and recycle my clay with it. But it isn't de-aired, so you really have to wedge it well. And so I'm really working the seam in on this really good, this top piece. And the funny story on that clay pugger is that the first time I turned it on, the little mechanism that you turn it on with quit. It just broke down. It just quit. And I went, oh, came all the way over here and it's not going to work for me. And I took the part off and I walked into a friend of mine's electric store and said, do you have this part? And the guy looks at me and goes, no, God, we'll never have anything like that ever. Then some guy behind the counter goes, wait a minute, some guy walked in this morning with a box of, there was. Okay, and then the other thing that will happen on this little piece that I just added is that the carving will also travel. So it travels up the spout, and then a little bit of it will travel up the, there's a stem that'll travel up. There's a stem that'll travel up, and another stem that'll travel up here over the top of it. And then I do like the length of this.
Unmute. We had.
I don't want it to get too dry, because then it's too hard to cut. Hello. I'll fuss with that. I don't think I cut it at 5 o'clock. Okay, I'll fuss with that later. Okay, then the other thing I did today is I threw 2 lids. And just to see which lid I would like on this. And I threw that one. I always try, because I do soda fire, wood fire, I always try and throw a lid that has a shelf so that the wadding can go underneath it. Instead of say a lid that comes down and straight in, where you have to put the coil out here and you can see it. So I'm just kind of neurotic about that, and I don't like that lid at all. So that one will get used maybe for something else if it ever fits anything else. This is a really simple form to throw. It's you just throw your round form on the potter's wheel, like, you know, a ball of clay, and then you come down and you open up the opening so that it's the right. So basically, so the opening is close to what your opening needs to be. Okay, and then you come down the sides with your fingers down the side, and then you fiddle with this until you get it the exact width that you want it to be, and then you pinch out the sides, and then in this case I trimmed it off, and in this case I created more of a rounded form. The other way I like this one, instead of it being like this, is to be more of a flange. That might have been prettier on this form. More of that shape would have actually been nice. Which I try and keep my measurements for a while, because if I don't like the lid, that I can create another one. But I like that flat one on there. And I don't have to even do a whole lot of trimming on it. There is a lot of clay there, but I don't know what I'm going to do with this lid yet. I'll put something on it. And then I did this handle earlier today. So I'll do drawings in my head on these kinds of things, where I don't do a lot of drawings of my pots, but I'll do drawings on my tabletop, and I'll draw this form. Do I like the handle to go? Would I like the handle to go like that? You know, but I really have also kind of like this kind of look. Something like that might be nice. I want to come down further. This B-mix is really forgiving. If I was trying to make these kind of movements with my shop clay, it'd be cracking up here by now. So, so I have a lot of choices of where I can put that angle. I kind of like it down a little further. And I don't want to put it on here yet because this spout isn't strong enough to support it yet. Maybe by the end of this evening, it might be. I'll put a light on it. And I want this lid to stay sort of damp. So I might find a sponge and just set it on top of it. So that if I put a light here to dry this out a bit. That away. Does this go till 9?
What's that?
Does this go till 9 or 8 or what?
Oh, we go till we
Oh,
go
whenever.
till, yeah.
Okay.
There.
Okay, well, then I'm gonna get a light on this and stiffen that up. And put a little plastic over the end of that spout. To keep it from drying out. You see what I'm doing? So basically that. So I'm protecting the spout, I'm protecting the lid. The other thing I can put on that, instead of a sponge, see, in this small studio, everything's only a few steps away.
So how long have you had this studio? This was just last year? Or?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
I remember seeing posts when you were building it.
Yeah, I have room outside to store a lot of stuff that I don't have to worry about freezing. So basically, I store a lot of my glazes and clay in here, but all my dry ingredients from glazes and stuff I can store outside. So that helps with the amount of things I need to keep in here. Okay, so that's covered up. That's waiting. So, any questions? I could carve that a little bit, but I'll show you this one. Okay. Because I think you can see how I've done the carving on this one. And that's what the side of this piece will look like. Where I've let the design travel up that little cap. And it's traveled, in this case, it didn't travel onto the spout, but it traveled onto the cap. And this is my shop clay. So I put a little porcelain slip over it in areas just because I'm worried that it might be kind of flat looking. I'm gonna trust. About maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I offered the fellow that I helped run the little gallery with here in Spokane, I offered him a space down at my barn to build a little origami wood dome. And he put a lot of bells and buzzers on it, and it has had 3 firings so far, and none of them have worked very well. But this last firing, he really got rid of a lot of the stuff, the bells and buzzers on it, the openings or the stemma, or just simplified it and turned it into basically just a chamber, and modified the chimney, made it a little wider, and it really worked well, but then didn't fire it long enough. And so everything was under fire. So I'm counting on, we're firing it again in March. I'm counting on it this time. And I try to keep my mouth shut. And So we're gonna fire it again in March, and I just really basically said, I said, you gotta fire those middle cones. This thing works now, and so I'm putting some work into it. I've always just put in a few pieces, and so I'm gonna give him a nice body of work to put in it, and we're gonna make this little wood kiln cook this time. And
Awesome.
I'm really excited for him this time, because I think he has it figured out now. But I put the porcelain slip on this because I really think that it could be a dark, it could get a little dark firing. I think I have one teapot from this last firing, but it's not, I'm not gonna show it.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, it just is dark. It's just dark. It's brown.
Yeah.
And I really have become to really love my soda firings and the way the work turns out in my soda firings. So I'm getting kind of to the point where I might be done with wood firings, which
Wow.
maybe I'm that age too. They're not that easy. And I'm not really into like going and helping and doing wood stacking. I like to stack wood, but I don't know if I really want to chop it and axe it. And it's gonna be 7 days, and I just really like the wood firing's a lot of work.
Oh my God, it
I
is
love
so
the
much
camaraderie
work.
of it. I love the camaraderie of a wood kiln, and especially since it put me together with families of people that I wasn't able to be around, because you can talk about, there's all those benefits of being around groups of potters together that have a shared passion for what we're doing. But I feel bad because I'm not in there helping as much as I should be now. So I'm thinking, well, if I can't help and do all that splitting of the wood and stuff, and I don't really want to sit and spend 5 days of shifts, I only want 3 days of shifts, then maybe I should give my spot up to somebody else who is willing to put all that time into it. That's where I'm going with this.
Oh, you paid your dues.
It's a transition
Yeah.
I'm thinking about.
This is a really lovely teapot that you have in your hands here. I love the detail in it, how in the foot that you've added, and how it relates to what you've done with the handle.
This
It's
is
really,
called having too much time on your hands.
I see a little bit more detail.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the whole leaf on the bottom, and then the curled leaf making the curl, and I have a whole bunch of them like this, and now I think I have it out of my system. The things we put on our work, what inspires us when we make our work, and basically I like to garden and I like to cook, and so I have a tendency to put gardening images on my pieces. This is another one. This just came out of the bisque. It's a lot like it. This just came out of the bisque fire. So this one has the wheel thrown base that is oval, and then a slab built, and this is a that is a slab built spout instead of wheel thrown, and then it's just little leaf shapes, and then again a little leaf, and then again the leaf on the bottom. I really worried that when I took them out of the kiln that there'd be an air pocket and they were going to crack, but all of these are the shop clays, so they have enough sculpture body in them. I think they did great. So I didn't lose any of those bottoms, which was great. Yeah, I think I like this one better than the other one.
It's very fluid.
All these lines I put in that are all going to disappear in an atmospheric firing. Okay. So while that's setting up, I can do a slab built piece, teapot form. And I did some basic prep on that today.
We'd love to see whatever you want to share with us.
Yeah. So I basically had this one sitting over here under plastic, and then I had these damp towels over the top of it. So at least these areas that I'm gonna continue building on stay workable, but the body of it has the strength it needs to stand up to what I want to do with it. So this has a pretty flat. It's gonna have a pretty flat bottom, and so that's why I put the lines along the bottom to try and give it like the look of a foot. And I will need to then create this side. And so I'll put this aside just for a minute. Grab this.
Gina, I don't know if you've met Nancy Lorem, but she is our president for Northwest Designer Craftsman, and she has been working with clay, so I'm sure she's soaking all this up.
I don't know that I have met Nancy.
Well, her and Ron are joining us.
I haven't been very good about ever going to meetings, ever.
If they were in Spokane, you'd probably be there.
I would host a wonderful meeting. I would totally host a meeting in Spokane. Yes. I love the year that Washington Clay Arts came over here. That was fun. So, is Nancy watching?
She is. She's here with Ron. Her speaker is turned off, or mic is turned off, so she might be trying to say hello. I was just wondering if she may have any questions for you.
I won't be a treasurer.
Hi, Gina. This is Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
My husband Ron is here, and I know other people here.
Is this you? So you're Northwest Designer Craftsman. Have you ever come over to the Allied Arts to help set it up? Or I know Ron.
I've been in shows over there, but I haven't come to help set up. So.
Okay, that's where I've met a lot of people. So.
I have years ago, but this was I'm saying probably 30 years ago.
Oh.
When you were just a youngster.
Yes, we all were.
But I'd love to see how you do your carving and stuff like that. So.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try and put this piece together, and then oh gosh, I have a lot of people that have been curious about my carving. I will say that I am definitely not on the caliber of what's I'm gonna get a name like the apple green celadon.
Oh, Elaine Coleman?
I'm not an Elaine Coleman whatsoever. Yeah, those just blow me away.
Pretty spectacular work.
It's just perfect.
Yeah, it's like candy.
Yeah, so I'll put this together, and then once I get this handle on this wheel thrown one, I'll do a little bit of hand carving.
Great.
Very, very simple hand carving.
So Ken, I would throw in a name, Ben Sam.
His name just came up for some reason I hadn't heard anyone mention his name in years, and I saw something on Facebook. Someone is putting something together on his life, all the work that he produced.
Who?
Ben
Ben-
Sams.
Ben Sands. So I know the name.
Flathead, Indian. And his wife, Dana Boussard.
Oh, okay. And she was a painter, printmaker.
Textiles.
And okay, see.
She did a lot of huge textile pieces.
And they're from over where? They're from over on the west coast, right? They're not from over here.
No, they were from over there.
They were?
They were res people originally.
Well, I actually don't. I know the names, but I actually did not know that they were from over here.
Yeah, I think he's gone now. I don't know what happened to Dana Boussard, but he did mugs. I have one that our friend Ron Ho gave me before he passed that I had admired for years, and it has a lot of surface carving and decoration on it.
Ben Sams taught at Seward Park back in the late 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Ah.
So he was in Seattle during those years. That's
Yeah.
when I knew him, was at.
Okay, then that's why I probably never knew him. It's if he was already there in the 60s and 70s, then he was already out of our community.
He
You're
showed
over here.
up on
Yeah.
Broadway. Yeah, up on Broadway.
So this simple form is one I've done for a long time. This hand-built form. And now I don't have a big enough slab for my bottom. Okay. Okay. I want to add a little texture to this slab right here that I'm going to put on the back side. So I always keep these little pieces of paper because they create some really nice random lines that I like. Just enough of a line to grab texture, to grab the kiln, because it'll pick up a stain, and I can enhance it. I can come into it and enhance some if I choose to, like that, and then down. So if I want to enhance that line, I can. Then I want to thin out I'm looking for a tool. Don't we always do that?
I think I
Oh, there
remember
it
you
is.
saying you had 3 of everything.
I do have 3 of everything, but only 1 of these. Okay. So this is gonna get scored. And I will come in on this for sure and play with this linear motif more, but I'll do it once I get it into shape, because I still think I'm gonna wanna push it and play with it. And if I play with that texture now, it might get weak and it won't take me pushing and pulling on it.
What tool are you using to carve with?
Well, I have a lot of them, and I end up using 1 or 2. So, I've got things like, like this, and even I think this one was a round one, and I flattened it. And I come in, and I actually I've got 2 of these now, which are the ones I use the most, which they were 1 of these.
It's nice you're holding them up and showing us, but we really can't see.
Oh, you can't.
I mean, well, maybe your black shirt helps.
Like,
There we go. Almost. Up
up.
there. Yay. Oh, okay.
So basically, I just reshaped 1 of these
Ah, okay.
into, where's my camera? Right into that.
Yes.
And
Perfect.
I have 2 of them that I really like. And those are the things I use the most.
Yeah.
And I also use this piece a little bit because it has a little bit of a curve,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has that nice square edge. And I can come in and I love this tool. I'll be really upset if I lose this one, because it has this really nice round edge that also has a curve on it. And I don't know where I got this tool. Okay. I want to make sure I put a little line on this foot that I can play with later. Score it. For it now. This thing has some design on it that I'm actually thinking about putting into the sides of it. Again, it's these blades of grass. And I had thought about making this sort of correspond to them. But the more I looked at it, the more I don't think I want. I think I'm going to leave it just so it's a slab connecting to a slab. And if I don't like the line, I can always get rid of it with clay. So I had a mother that had Alzheimer's, and one of the things we noticed is that art is linear problem solving, right? We have to know how to go from this step to the next step to the next step. And you would think that as an artist, we would always be able to do that, to be able to do our art even. And I've seen some of these great shows of, you know, the Alzheimer's patient making the beautiful things and stuff like that. But it was really interesting to watch her devolve and not make those linear steps that we thought would just stay natural. And so the reason I'm talking about that right now is that as potters, we are constantly having to make those linear those linear decisions of, if I do this, then what will it look like, and et cetera, et cetera. So I always feel comfortable when I know I haven't got Alzheimer's yet, when I can still make, I can still keep making these decisions on how do I want to handle this form. Because I kind of figure that my chances could be pretty good to get Alzheimer's. It's all five of her sisters all had it, but maybe it skips a generation. Let's not count on that, right? But I do love, to not be morbid here, but I do love the linear step decision making that happens in pottery.
I've been doing it all wrong.
Good. The whole time. Since day one.
Since day one,
Yeah.
I am zigzagging all the time. Should I do this? Oops. Why did I do that? Try it
And then
again.
you solve it. And then you solve it.
Eventually, yes, because you don't give up until you do, right?
Yeah, we're like farmers, you know. I'm sure it's gonna rain tomorrow. And I know Lauren's here, or no, Reed is here. I was looking at a post by a Nick that I fire with over at the Santatsugama, and he was having, it looked like he'd lost one bisque float after another, and I've never had that happen. I've always have been neurotic about a really slow warm up, and then I also work really thin. But he said he was going to use a Reed Ozaki bisque, and I wanted to know what that was.
It's actually using the ramp and hold function on your kiln.
That's it. You hold it. How long do you hold it? I hold mine.
Well, I've got several different patterns that I use based on, how late I am in the process, how far behind I am, getting stuff ready. But yeah, I'm just surprised that some of these younger potters don't understand what the whole bisque process is about.
I was shocked. I did, guys, this is the greatest kid. I was shocked at the volume of work he lost. I've never had a computer run bisque kiln until last year. A local auction place who knows me called me up and he said, someone just brought in an electric kiln that's never been used and you need to come and look at it. I went, okay, and I got it for a song, and it's a little and it has a computer programming on it. And that was my biggest worry, was how do I set this up so that it'll hold a really low temp for like 8 or 9 hours to just get all the moisture out of these pieces. And they're all set up to do that. It was a slow bisque. You hold it, then it holds it for 150 degrees for, in this case, I go 8 hours just in a hold. And then it's slow after that as far as the step ups. But that made it, that was I was nervous at first, thinking I wasn't going to be able to figure out how to do that. And it turned out to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Well, if you understand, why you're doing certain things, then the whole process makes sense. But if you don't understand, what the clay's doing, and why you're ramping up, why you're going slowly at one point and faster than when you can go faster, then you blow stuff up, right?
Yeah. So I'm playing with this line here, and then I want to play with I always forget how plastic this B mix is. I've heard people don't like it because they think it's greasy.
I hated it when I started using it. I don't know, gosh, 15, 20 years ago. I couldn't stand it, but everybody at Mosier was using it and loved it. So it just generates so much slip, but it is really pretty amazing clay. I mean, it really is good.
Okay, so now I want to play with this. I'm creating that side profile. I never know whether these are going to turn out. Then, well, this is a good sign that that's in the wrong angle for sure. And it's funny, this is an old form that I used to make, and I don't relate as well to it as I used to. But that's nice. Now, the one thing I won't have for this is, I wonder if this flange would work. This flange might work. Might when I'm done. Okay. So then, this needs a bottom, doesn't it? It needs a bottom. So I don't have any of this anymore, big enough. So I have to create a new slab. And so it's a green slab going on some clay that's sort of set up, but not bad. The other thing I really like about this V-Mix, it's all pre-pugged and you really don't have to wedge it too much. And that, the wedging is probably the only thing that I'm struggling with from this broken wrist, is this motion. So I have all of this and this, but I don't have, and I have this sort of, I don't have that at all. That's as far as I can go. And it's been six months, and I might not get it back. So it'll get to the point where it won't hurt, I think, to wedge, is what I'm counting on. So I have locked my shop plate because it's really soft and it's really easy to wedge. But none of this hurts at all. And I can't wait to get back on my bike that I fell off of when I broke my wrist.
So that's how it happened.
I bought myself an electric bike and I freaking love the thing. I rode hundreds of miles last summer on it. And it was just like, it was so wonderful. And when I fell off of it, I didn't even have it turned on. I was carrying stuff home from my mailbox and something fell out of my hands and went between the spokes of the bike and stopped it dead.
Oh.
And I kept going. No, this is not good. This hand doesn't look right. It did not, it looked really bad. It was flat.
Well, I was really surprised with all that you were doing with that broken hand.
Oh, I had to put together I had
A lot going on.
I had all this work that was ready to go into a soda firing. It was all ready, it was all bisqued, and I had to get it done and fired, and so just did it. But I actually have this family in my life that has had these kids that are the hardest working kids. And the one young lady is the one who helped me pug all my clay. Well, I brought her in and I said, look, you can stain this stuff for me. You know, you can throw on the stain and I can and sponge it off. And so she stained everything, and she helped put wadding on. She actually learned every single, I don't know if she'll ever go into pottery, but the kid did every single phase of the firing process and of getting work ready for a soda firing. She learned every phase, and I knew she could do it because she's a meticulous personality.
Wow.
And everything wasn't perfect. A lot of the work that came out of the firing, I wished it would have had more of this or more of that, but it was, I just looked at it and I thought, well, you did the best you could do. And it was fine. Today, this is supporting itself like this. Normally it would not, but it is because today I put a little heat lamp on this front section just so that I could have it do that. So Lauren, you had COVID. Do you have to get the shot, the vaccine?
I have one scheduled for March 20th.
Oh, so you
Right.
still get the vaccine? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll still get one. I think that having it is like having a shot. So I probably won't have to get the second shot.
You'll just do one shot.
Well, we'll see what they say, but that's my particular professional medical opinion.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And I might not be able to get into the inside of this piece again, so I'm going to go ahead and put a coil in it. And then I'm not going to fuss too much with the outsides of it. This piece is a lot like, could be a lot like this little teapot, but on a smaller. This was done the same way. This piece looks like a lot like the pieces that you guys probably got to know me, the pieces I was doing then.
It doesn't have any buttons on it.
It doesn't have buttons.
Remember, you used to do a lot of buttons.
I did.
Yeah.
And ducks.
Yeah, well, in the
The stone stuff.
electric fired days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ducks and buttons, and I quit doing them when Dave Key's son walked up to my booth at Bellevue, and he looked at me and he said, "Do you know who Dave Keys is?" And I go, "Yeah, he was my professor." And I knew who he was, but he didn't know I knew who he was. And he goes, "Your work looks like a lot like his." And I went home and I threw away all my molds, and I threw away everything that I had been using to make the work that I was using, because I was so horrified that my work was that derivative of Dave's work. But you know, he's your teacher, so it should be. But at some point you have to be able to then create your own form based upon the knowledge the teacher gave you. And I remember coming back to Bellevue the next year with a new body of work, and wow, it was so different. I felt good about it though.
Hey, Gina,
Yes.
this is Reed. You should look up Josh's work.
I
He's a
love
painter.
Josh's work. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
isn't
yeah.
that great? Yeah.
And his wife does beautiful work too, Josh's wife. She does these really beautiful floral, they both do hyper realism. As far as I know, I think I'm right on that, but
Who are we talking about? Josh who?
Josh Keys,
That's
Dave-
David's son?
David's son, is phenomenal.
Had no idea.
Amazing work.
Hmm.
Yeah. And his wife also. Josh doesn't go on social media too much, but his wife is. And I think and Barb is on social media, so every once in a while she'll post about both of them. I don't know what Barb's last name is. Barb. She might go by Minus. No, for all of you that, okay, what does this have to do? it's just beautiful work. And in some ways it's very relevant to Dave's work because he likes to use imagery that he collects. Like Dave collected all those little shapes and forms and pressed into them and stuff, and Josh uses a lot of like juxtaposes images together that come from different eras or different walks of life, like a rhinoceros with stop signs or a convertible, with something else. They're just really, and they're realistic. They're totally realistic paintings.
I see. Yeah, they're all paintings.
Yeah, I think they're all paintings.
Wow.
So I'm going to put a spout on this one and then go back to carving, put the handle on that wheel drawn piece. We'll put a spout on this one. There's part of me that wants to lift this foot up some way and get it up off the ground. How many of you solve your problems at 3 o'clock in the morning? I wake up with them on my mind, visualize them, take a photograph of them with my phone, and I'll lay in bed and study that photograph. Let's see if I've got a slab that's big enough for a spout. Probably not. Make one. So those of you, do you ever see Dave? Is he around? Dave Keys?
I haven't seen him for a while. I know he's around, but he came to an opening at TCC year and a half ago or something like that.
Uh-huh.
He had a piece in the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's got to be getting up there.
Yes, we all are, Gina.
Yeah, I know, but so I want to make a bigger slab, so this should work. score, slip, roll it together really well, and then work it together really well. I always call these watering hands. So I'm reinforcing that edge right there because I figure if it's going to crack anywhere, it's going to crack on that arch that I'm going to work the hardest.
So I tried to get Steve Sauer to join us tonight, and he tried, but I didn't give him the Zoom.
Oh,
Gave him Steve's or Ken's email. So
I don't know if he tried to email me.
well,
I would have loved to have seen Steve. I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He was trying to find out about some research that was done over here where the Indians' horses were all killed by George Wright, and where the horses were all killed, all the bones then, because you had all that bone ash, they were collecting it, and they were going to make something out of it that would have been a memorial. And I thought, I figure Steve would be working on something like this. And
it's a perfect diversion.
huh?
It's a perfect diversion.
Yeah, perfect for Steve. Yeah. All I could offer him was I knew who the general was, and I knew that it was on Steptoe Butte, and that they killed all the horses, and just another one of our wonderful things we've done in our history. I want to have a hole right down in there.
So do you listen to music while you're doing all this stuff, Gina?
I do. I'm a public talk radio person though. I have a tendency to listen to that. We have a really good station here in Spokane, and so I'll watch that. And when they get on stuff that I'm not that keen on, then I listen to just Apple off of a little speaker off my phone.
Okay.
Apple Music, so I can say, play such so and so, and they'll play every song that's ever been done by that particular person. Like I've been listening to the Weatherbees. What is it called? It's the whole group of artists that were put together by John Lennon. It's just a fun library. Recently added. The Traveling Wilburys.
Traveling Wilburys? Awesome.
Yes, I like that. That's my latest one I've been listening to. I have a tendency to move around on what I listen to. Because the next day I could be listening to Bocelli. I don't know.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the Traveling Wilburys.
No, I didn't know anything. I didn't know about it, and then I can't remember where I heard just out of it. I had no idea.
Did you have a show recently at, in, where was it, in Idaho?
The Art Spirit Gallery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
There were a group of us that I used to teach with. Mary Farrell was the printmaker, Laura Truitt was the painter, and then Sheila Evans is a local pastel enamel type person. So we were supposed to be the main show, and of course COVID interrupted that. And so we said, well, would you let us do it later in the year? And she's pretty agreeable. And so she let us do November, but then it was in combination with other stuff that they had. And, and this year having shows is been pretty, not a lot of people are coming out because it seems like our art patrons are pretty conscientious. And so I haven't had very many in-person sales, but I've had good online sales. I know, Lauren, your gallery looks like it's just kept plugging away. But Trackside, we shut down in March, and we didn't do anything until September. And September was a bust, and then October was a little better. And then we do this fundraiser in November, and that went really well. And then the cup show we ran was amazing. It was, Reed, both you and Lauren and Reed, you both are in the cup show. We sold that thing out, except for like 10 or 15 cups, but a lot of it was online sales. Not very many people walked through the door. See, I worked that lip over and over and over, and it still wants to crack. I can use a little vinegar on that if I feel like it's going to be a problem. Little wooden dowel. Rushing. Let me get that lid on, or that handle. So this is pretty typical on how I make a little handmade spout. Try and have enough flexibility in it where I can still alter the top, this top ridge, and the lower curve.
So do you ever use those out in the garden?
I have them around my property. I never use my own work. But I do have seconds laying around my property, and the winter usually does them in because nothing survives. So if I don't bring them in, they'll self-destruct in our winters. They get moisture in them or anything. But I try and get seconds. I'll set around my garden. I'll use them for, in the good old days when we used to have people over for dinner, I used to, you know, create a really pretty centerpiece with my work. That was always kind of fun. I don't even know if I'll know how to act when we get to do that again. I get my second shot this Saturday. And I'm actually looking forward to maybe going to a restaurant and having a meal out.
Wow.
Yeah, in a couple, and they say you need to give yourself a couple weeks or something after that second shot. I haven't done that. A lot of my friends that I would go do that with have, like, they have some health issues where if they really did catch it, they'd be in bad trouble. So we've been really careful. And Spokane and Coeur d'Alene have just been, they've been really non-compliant.
I had a feeling Coeur d'Alene had been non-compliant.
Horribly non-compliant. Yeah, I mean, you know, when you're getting, in a community our size, when you're getting 500 and 600 new cases a day, and deaths in the hundreds, we've lost 500 people, and our population shouldn't have happened. But just a lot of non-compliancy. I mean, and our school, our public school that my kids teach in, they went back in person in September. And they did offer they offered a virtual program for kids who didn't feel safe going back in person. And my daughter, they both teach, so they went back and they taught in person, but they put their older son virtual because they thought he could handle it. And then their younger one, who was a third grader, I worked with him in the mornings and virtually. That was an absolute freaking disaster.
Oh.
And we sent him back to school in person in October. And honestly, there hasn't been a lot of problems in the schools. But just this last day, the school bus drivers have over 50 school bus drivers and personnel that have COVID.
Oh, geez.
Which is a lot for Spokane.
God.
I mean, and what do you have to, I just don't get it. How hard is it to wear a mask? It's just not that hard. I asked my grandson when I picked him up from school, I says, why you wear your mask all the first week? He was third grader. You wear your mask all day? Was it hard? No, it's hard. It's not hard. if he gets to go back to school, he wanted to wear his mask. I know Seattle isn't in, they're all virtual, right?
Right. Except private schools.
Yeah. I would give my eye teeth if the governor would let teachers be in line for a vaccine, because I'd love to have my kids who will teach get a vaccine. They could be a lot more comfortable teaching.
Yeah, well, that's what they've got to do. If they want them to get back in school, they've got to get those teachers.
Well, the governor's not going for it.
No.
And even the CDC says that it's not, that it isn't that important, that they can teach safely without getting it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to move on past this one. It is kind of fun. I'm going to, it will end up having a little form right here that will fill in this space.
I get my second shot on next Wednesday. And
Okay.
I think Ron and Nancy had theirs.
Anybody already have their second shot and they didn't have any problems with it whatsoever? I've heard everybody gets really sick on the second shot.
My two sisters got their second shot. Two of my sisters got their second shot last Sunday. And they said that their arm was sore than the first, but that was it. They didn't get all the, flu symptoms and such. So that was encouraging.
I got mine yesterday and I just have a sore arm, but other than that, it's great.
Awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because I think we've all been hearing the horror stories.
The horror stories.
And not the good stuff.
I think Moderna's a little tougher than the Pfizer for the second.
That's what I've heard.
That's what mine the Moderna. So, but I didn't have any problems with the first one. So I'm just glad I'm getting it. I'm gonna go ahead and put this piece on.
So, Gina, this is Nancy Lorem Adams.
Yes.
So what did you use to texture that spout? I saw you rolled it on.
Just a little piece of corrugated cardboard.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, right. Okay.
I've always liked textures that have linear or geometric components to them that I can actually create direction with the lines they make. So I had a choice of setting the cardboard to go this way or going this way. And because the form was so big, I decided not to, extend that energized line out this way. I wanted it to bring it back into the form. So that's cardboard. I don't use a lot of really recognizable textures anymore. Used to.
So I noticed that some of your pieces have, it looks like leaf forms, that are added on, not carved in. So do you create those, each one of those separately, or do you have a mold that you use?
If I were to, I don't know if you can see it. So are you saying is that a leaf form that I've added to it?
Yeah.
No, that's actually carved in.
Okay.
I don't add a lot of I don't really do a lot of adding on any of these. I do I really do that pushing out. And then I can come back in and push back in.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. And then like so. And then this one. And so then I can fiddle with that form quite a bit, and make it and add even more texture to it.
Mhm.
So like I would leave this, and then this would get almost not leather hard, but close to being leather hard. And then I would come in and carve in a lot of the texture. So like, I don't know if you can see it, but the texture that you see right in through here,
Mhm. Yeah, I can see.
that's all just been carved in.
Okay. Gotcha. So you push it out and then carve in.
I push it out and then come back in. So I compared it to reprise and chasing,
Yeah.
in the jewelry world. This piece goes back a few years. So if somebody said to me, do you use a template? I'd almost laugh. I mean, I think I probably would laugh. I've never used templates. I don't know if I know how. But I do approach it a lot like sewing, I guess. Where you piece and part these things together. So many of the potters these days use so many templates and forms, and the work is so, I admire that work. I just can't do it. And I do love the fact that this thing's heading off in a different direction. Then by the time I'm done, this is going to be curving. That's what demo pieces are all about, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't give myself quite enough room.
Solve that.
Slap that thing around. This right hand is hanging in there. I didn't leave myself enough room.
You'll stretch it. You'll get it there.
Stretch. Come on, stretch. Rush it.
Oh, cool.
Just to give you an idea of where it'll go, okay? Because I'm gonna try back off from this piece. Because what I need a thrown piece that I like to use a thrown flange for the lids to sit into. And it is not lined up, but it's funky. I like to paddle my seams. I did thin that top seam out quite a bit so that they would paddle a little tighter. Okay. So then, because I want to still do a lot of work on this one, I don't think I really want to put a lid on it yet. The handle probably it'll be a something that looks like this, like I did before. I can send a pic of it when it's finished. I might want to do something to the foot on this a lot like I did the teapot. Put a little something to lift it up off the table a little tiny bit. Or I can accentuate that line. But I'm so used to that, of making it lifted up, that it's gonna kind of drive me nuts if I don't. And well, then what I mean by a flange is that if I were to use this one as an example, I throw form on the wheel. There's just a cylinder, and then I fold it over and pinch the cylinder, or so I fold that flange over the top, and so it'll look like that and through there. And because I probably have to make my flange pretty wide to cover that area right there, but I want it to sit, the opening, I want it to sit somewhere right in here. of the form. Somewhere right in here. So that means that the flange will have to, it'll probably be about this big, and then that top piece will then lay over. And then it's round. It creates a round opening, and then that lets me throw a wheel thrown lid to fit in it, which I can create some oval to it if I choose to. And sometimes I do, because it looks better on a hand-built form to have the lid not be truly round. But I've never really done this thing with just a hand-built opening with a hand-built lid. I just never have. So this needs a lot more work. And I'm not going to go there with it. Anybody care? I was going to carve the other one.
Well,
The
we'd
two-
all love to see it finished, but we,
Yes.
you know, we understand.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing.
I'd have to wheel throw that flange, which I could do, but I'm not actually prepared to wheel throw.
That's fine.
Anybody. So anyway, I'm going to put the handle on this piece. And then I'll carve it a little bit. And as I did, it is nice and perfect.
All right. The light bulb did the trick.
It's got a little heat light in it instead of a light bulb.
Ah,
It's got a little bit of heat to that. What did I say? I liked it like that. So.
you know, I was thinking about it. There are hundreds of years of ceramic um, ceramics behind us. Just the people in this room,
Oh,
or in this Zoom session here. It's pretty amazing.
I don't know what I'm thinking. It's a pretty. Most of us got to know each other doing those festivals too. I'm so
Yeah.
glad I got to quit doing festivals. They're exhausting.
They really were, but they, you know, a lot
It
of
was
good
our-
memories too.
Yeah, there's a lot of the families that we got to know everybody, and I did get some really wonderful clients from them, but I'm not living over there. I created a couple of them here, but couldn't show them because I ran them.
So if I could, I'd like to tap into some of this incredible ceramic knowledge that we have in this room,
Yes.
in this group here. Um, when I first signed on, Barry had a piece, well, a bunch of pieces, I should say. He fired a kiln and added a bunch of materials, some perlite and some grog and some chicken scratch. Oh, he's holding it up here. I don't know if anyone can see it, but he said the piece was sitting on a shelf and just started to fall apart. Anyone have wanna chime in on what they think may have happened? I kind of gave them my quick opinion.
So say again what was in it?
Barry, I'll let you.
Had sand, perlite, vermiculite, and I think a little chicken scratch
Hmm.
wedged into the clay.
I wonder if
Oh,
the,
wedged into the clay.
Yeah.
So some of the chicken scratch I've seen has calcium in it.
oh,
Uh,
spit outs.
And the vermiculite is expanded mica, so that should
That's
be,
what. Sorry, Lauren. Go ahead.
no, that's about all I was gonna say. It's expanded mica, and it would in its form react with the calcium.
It would react with the calcium.
Well, as the flux of the calcium.
I see. Because I was just thinking in its, the vermiculite itself could just have expanded and caused some breakage, but I've never seen any of those materials by themselves create that kind of a mess. And I've combined several of those materials myself. Um, in fact, it's what I did, just a couple of weeks ago. I haven't fired anything other than bisque yet, but I didn't use vermiculite because I didn't have any. If I'd had some, I'd probably thrown it in there.
Well, vermiculite is very, very stable at cone 10 by itself.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't do anything. I don't think it would grow any more than, any more in the kiln, but it would be very stable, except in the presence of a flux.
Hmm.
What do you think, Reed?
We lost him.
Reed's
Awesome.
I thought he was going to the book.
Oh,
So maybe you could soak one of those pieces and see what happens. If the calcium is in chunks from the chicken scratch, then that would pop out.
Oh, as a lime pop.
Yeah.
in a bisque state or just
So you've taken calcium carbonate and turned it into calcium oxide,
uh-huh.
and when that rehydrates,
That's like plaster.
yeah, it's like plaster.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So in wood firings we use shells,
Right.
right? And so the calcium would do the same thing, even just at bisque.
well, this has been to cone 10.
Right. And and the calcium, if it's a chunk of calcium, it's just going to turn the calcium by itself that way is pretty refractory, quite refractory, very
and
refractory.
isn't sometimes it doesn't happen right away? It absorbs moisture or something from the
Well, that's
environment.
what I was suggesting. You soak it so that water, the
Yeah.
moisture would be there in quantity, and you would know right away. if
Speed
it's
up the
gonna be something
process.
bad.
Yeah.
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 So Barry, if you have any bisqueware that you hadn't fired, soak it in water and see what happens.
So, you know, it depends on what the chicken, you know, what's in the chicken scratch. If it's, you know, if it's ground up shells, then yeah, I think you might have a problem.
Yeah, I don't know what else would, you know, would be the culprit.
I've seen John McQuistion used to put perlite into his sculpture clay, and that would spit out little white nodules periodically, but nothing.
Glass-like though, right?
Yeah, glassy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping those spots soft. Okay. So I'm going to show you just a very simple how I carve, just not. Let's see if I've got a smaller spinner around here somewhere. Well, that might have answered the question, right?
Sounds
Or
good to
created
me.
more.
That's another of the 1,000 ways to die.
Okay. The problem with carving is only I can see what I'm doing. But I'll show you my steps. You can find my little carving tool. There it is. I used to use this one a lot, and I'd come in like I did on that big carved one, and I would push back in on it. And so I do a little bit of that. And then where I'm worried about it not handling the pressure, I can come in and, can you even see it though on your screens, what I'm doing?
We see that you're doing something.
Yeah, it's like
You can surprise us with some results here every once in a while.
when I catch myself working on these things over and over and over and sponging and, you know, just working them to death, I go back to a story of a workshop that Josh DeWeese had with us at Trackside, and we kept noticing how little he touched the outside surfaces of his pots. Yeah, and granted they're wheel thrown, and he doesn't do a lot of altering to their outside surfaces, but still, it was such a it was so obvious that the freshness of the way he threw, and that was whatever he threw, that was the surface that you ended up with. Okay, so he had a piece sitting on the table. I actually didn't even think about the fact that it was that he didn't touch the outside surfaces of pots too much, but I found out because of something I did. So he had a piece that was obstructing people's views, and it was a platter sitting on a throwing bat. And so when I went to move it, I put my hand over the rim like this and my fingers into the inside slope of the platter, and I pulled it towards me. Because that's the way I treat my own work. And the look he shot me. I could have dug my own grave right there on the spot. And so whenever I start working on these pieces and I'm fussing, I always for some reason I keep remembering that happening and how horrified I was, but then understanding that it's part of his whole. I mean, it's part of his work. It's just, but it was really horrifying. I did a very bad thing.
Your story
He
reminds
didn't
me.
even take the piece with him. He left it. It's in our boneyard. It was so bad.
Oh boy, he left the reminder, huh?
He left me the reminder. Yeah.
That reminds me of Lauren might remember this. We were in Yixing at one of the factories, and we were in this little room with one of the masters who had been working on designing this teapot for a year or two,
Oh,
and it was just, I mean, the thing was just polished and glistening, and we're all admiring it. And I can't remember one of my people reached out to touch it, and I don't know if they got their fingers on it or not, but it was like everybody just like, oh. Do you remember that, Lauren?
No, I don't remember. I remember being in the room. I don't, maybe that was me reaching for it. So
No, I don't think it was. No.
I would have blocked it out.
Boy, I remember that.
That's because you were Mr. Responsible of all of us.
I thought, oh my God.
you guys watch those teapot demonstrations that are on social media every once in a while now, where they're making those teapots.
Oh my God, I love
And they just
them.
don't put you to sleep there, but they're so like you said, they're just so perfect. I just those blew me away. I think you shared one and I shared it again.
Well, want to talk about a plastic clay. That was some plastic clay.
It's that red clay. It's that really earthy brown.
Yeah, they call it purple sand.
Oh. What's the black clay? Is Rob still here or did he go to bed?
Rob is still with us.
Oh, Rob. What's that black clay you're using?
Let me unmute myself. It's a hikidashi. It's not black clay.
Okay, it's your process.
Yeah, it's process. I mean, actually, I've been using a bedrock clay with some other stuff mixed in out of clay art.
Oh.
And Barry gave me some Grogzilla that I fired too, which is kind of cool.
Grogzilla.
Yeah.
Well, I've always worked in white clays or pale beiges because I don't know, I was always at wars. So it always felt comfortable to me to work in the white clays. But I watch those, like you said, that clay that they're using to make those teapots. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like a purple mahogany.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Got a spot that's sunk right there, and I don't know how to reach it. And I'm plugging up my lid, and I'm still getting a hole somewhere. I'll find it somewhere. Okay. Then let's see. I'm getting. I can get away with this kind of loosey-goosey carving because honestly, the soda firing or wood firing does relax my lines a little bit, and I'll use a lot of stain and slips on them, and then some brushwork over the top of them also, and that helps make them so that some of my marks aren't as obvious that I've left behind. But like that one here, that there's enough room for me on that one to actually come in and smooth that area out with this tool. And then that also lets me bring the sponge in and smooth it out too. I can work for an afternoon on these carvings or a day.
Can you turn it around so we can see what you've done?
Can you even see it?
You give us a little bit more of a spout shot.
Oh,
There it
yeah.
is.
That's worth the price of admission.
No, it's you guys. Okay. And then, but I like that line to carry all the way up onto this top piece to help integrate that little top flange into the form of the teapot. I'll show you that when I'm going to do just a little more here. So Reed, how have they handled classes at the Tacoma, at the community college?
Don't know.
Oh,
Haven't
you
been
don't?
there since end of fall quarter last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. You're no longer there.
I'm no longer there.
Ah.
I was a COVID victim, and then I retired, basically.
Uh-huh. So both you and Lauren were COVID victims.
Well, I mean, I was a victim of the shutdown.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay.
I didn't realize you retired, Reed.
Congratulations. I
Well,
love
it was partly planned and partly unplanned. So I was going to go till the end of spring, and then COVID hit, and so they canceled winter and spring quarter, and so yeah, basically I was done sort of before I was fully prepared. But anyway, it's yeah, it's good to be retired. It's a good time to be retired.
Boy.
I retired. The last 2 years, I stayed teaching for 2 years longer than I wanted to because I needed the health insurance when my husband passed away.
Mhm.
And so I had to wait till I got Social Security. And so the last 2 years of teaching were just like mind-numbingly walking through because I reached a stage where I didn't feel like I related to the students anymore. Now, granted, Gonzaga gets a little different type of student. I think we get a little bit more of an entitled student than say a community college would. And I felt a lack of. I was teaching 100 level classes, which means that you've got a business major taking beginning drawing just to fulfill his fine arts core requirement. and they think it's going to be an easy A. And whereas it used to be at Gonzaga, you get the academically oriented kids that would say they'd fight through the workload and try and earn that A. But this new generation of kids is angry with you because you created a course that shouldn't be that hard because it's just a core requirement. And they let you know, and they didn't want to do the work, and then they would fight you all the way to the dean over their grades. And it just became a real big push for me. Since I've left, and one of the things we started working on before I quit, we started working on creating some core fulfillment classes for non-art majors. And I think that's solving a lot of that problem. So I volunteer now at my daughter's high school and work one-on-one with kids who are trying to develop portfolios to apply to, say, like Cornish. So they need a drawing portfolio. Like I had the one kid a few years back that wanted to apply to DigiPen, but he was already a senior and he had no drawing background. He just could draw, but he had no drawing portfolio to apply with. And based upon that, that's when we decided to start offering some of these kids an opportunity to develop a drawing portfolio so they could apply to these design programs, and that's been fun. I've enjoyed that.
That's great.
Yeah, I've got a young girl this year that's I'll show this carving here in a second. I have a young girl this year that's got basically was couch surfing her junior and senior year, and a mother freaking mess. There's so much of that now in these schools with kids whose parents are not providing them any kind of an opportunity to succeed. And she was, I would say, moderately gifted, not really gifted, but she really had the desire to try and make a better life for herself with what she thought is the only skills she did have, which was she could draw. So I started working with her as a sophomore, and by the time she was a senior, she worked hard. She really had a beautiful drawing portfolio, and she got accepted into every single dang school she applied to.
Nice.
And she ended up going to Cornish and gave her a full ride. And she's getting straight A's. And she says life is so easy now because she has a bed and she has food whenever she needs it. And she can walk wherever she has to go. I mean, all these things we take for granted. Pretty amazing. I don't have any kids right now. With the lockdown and everything, there's no even funds for them to give them the art supplies.
So Gina, you just did that as kind of a mentorship volunteer thing?
Well, I would go in and on a weekly basis. I have one boy that next year also got, the year before got, or 2 years before, got into Cornish. And so what we knew they needed to get into these schools is they require, and Ken can verify this, they require an observational drawing portfolio. Right?
Yes, they want to see if you can draw from, draw what you see rather than.
From still life. They don't
Yes.
want anime. They don't want,
Yep,
all this stuff. These kids think that that's all they need to draw.
exactly.
So I would go in, because it's what I taught when I was at Gonzaga. I would go in and set up a still life. And because they were in a Maker high, it's part of the public high school, but it was a separate high school. They were in a Maker high school, meaning that part of that school's mission is to get kids to problem solve and to think on their own and to work independently. And so I would go in just one day a week and set up the still life and then critique any drawings that they worked on. And then and then teach them, and they could always text me imagery that they'd been working on also during the week. And then we would, then I taught them how to mat and frame their work, and then they were obligated to have exhibit every year, public exhibit somewhere. And so it's volunteer, but you know, retired, it's easy. It was rewarding. I was appreciated versus those kids I was, you know, Gonzaga who didn't really want me there.
Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
It makes a big difference. And I've really kind of missed it now that we haven't been able, I haven't even been able to go in. The school won't let volunteers in this whole school year, so. Okay. So this is all that talking. Well, I'm gonna do one leaf to show you how I might finish the leaf. Want to hear a kiln?
What's that?
Want to hear a kiln in the background?
Oh, yeah, that's my heat source.
Oh,
Yeah, my propane heater gave up the ghost a couple of years ago.
okay, well.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Like that.
very
And
nice.
I took the line all the way up to the top right there, which you can't see.
Yeah, we can see it.
Neat.
Okay. And then I work on it, tighten it up and tighten it up and tighten it up even more and more and more. And I'm probably gonna do a lid a lot like this one because I really liked it. So I'm probably gonna do the same thing, and then I might even put the little leaf right there. The original one that I was sort of working from had this going for it, which I still might do. So yes, the carving, for those that were interested in how I carve, it is that little handmade tool I made. And when I need tighter places, I use this little metal one that I squished. And then I use this for to smooth. And then I sponge it a lot. And then before I bisque, I sand them all. And that softens some of the lines a little again, or I can even come in and I can, once it gets a little harder, I can even come in and fine tune the lines a little bit more. So the original one looked like that didn't make it. Look like that. And what was the lid like? Yep. Oh, geez. Okay. Oh, God, I even did something even, I can't believe it made it. I did, can you see what I did?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's just like so stupid. And
That's
then
very, very practical.
it gets broken out, right? It's like, oh, let's let anybody load it into the kiln and let's make sure that it doesn't get broken. I mean, and then I think it just had a really nice little knob as a handle, and like that. Which is nice, it adds elevation to it,
It does.
which I like. But I don't like that anymore. I do kind of think I like the idea of the little, I don't know, maybe I do. But without the little doodad. Because it matches the foot. Nah. See, this is where I would actually put that together and I would take a photograph of it and I would look at it overnight, and the next day I keep it wrapped up so that I don't have to worry about it getting too dry. And I would decide what I wanted to do with it the next day after I, because this teapot actually for a demo piece can turn out fine.
Yes.
I
it
don't
could.
know. I don't know if that one over there will.
Well, it's looking pretty fine to me.
What I thought I would do if it was like that other piece was it would have, just because it's going to be with this particular body of work, is I would do another little, so I do attach leaves. I did get that question earlier. Do I
Yes,
attach
you
leaves?
did.
So I do attach some leaves. And I don't make a very fancy one. It's too bad Al isn't here because I would tease him about the fact that I still remember his demonstration where he showed up with all his tools in this amazing carry case, and each one had a specific tool. Each tool had a specific spot in this carry case, and it was the very last time any of them saw that spot for almost 3 days. And he spent it's like we all do. He spent almost the whole day demo looking for a tool. And he brought this thing specifically so that he wouldn't have to look for his tools. And it's just because this is how we work. Our tools are all over the place. Anyway, most people I know. That's
Mm-hmm.
I'll put that little thing I made right there. So I would be tempted to repeat this. And again, this is really logical too, because of course this is going to get knocked off in the firing. But I still think I'm tempted to repeat that lid on here. But I kind of like that.
I like them both. But I do like the leaf up there.
The little leaf up on top. It needs
Yeah.
to be a little smaller. But anyway. So I think that's all I've got.
Hey, you've
Except
been
answering
awesome.
Except answering questions or.
No, I just thank you so much, Gina. You really, you always just give us way more than we ask for sure. And it's just so generous of you. I also
Well,
I want to thank everybody else.
Visible over here in Spokane. Especially here. I did a kiln firing over with the kids at the Santatsugama in March, and it was in the middle of the kiln firing when they started shutting everything down because of COVID. And everybody said, well, you need to go home. And so I drove home, and I didn't get that work from that kiln firing until August. I didn't know how awful it was.
Wow.
It was so bad, the work.
Well, I wanted to say thank you very much, Gina. I really enjoyed watching your work, so thanks.
So did you get to sort of figure out how I carve, or aren't you the one that?
Yep, I get it. And I've been looking at your work on your website on my telephone while you're.
Oh, okay, that helps because I do post a lot of these in.
Yeah.
In this.
So I can, you're talking it through, and then I can see what you've done here on the screen. So.
Okay.
And
Well,
Kim,
I would actually love to watch Elaine carve. I would never actually want to work that detailed, but what she does is, as far as carving, is phenomenal. But
Thanks, Gina. It's great to see you.
it was great seeing all my old buddies.
Hey,
What?
I want to, before everybody leaves, I just want to thank you so much for joining this evening. And I want to let you know that
Do I get another $50 Amazon card?
you definitely do. It's in the mail, right?
Yeah, it is.
Marcia Seltzer is going to be presenting in 2 weeks. I
Oh,
think
wonderful.
I think the 10th. So she came on earlier, but I guess she had to leave. So I'd love to have you all back if you guys are interested.
This is a great idea. Thanks so much, Ken.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
thank
Yeah,
you,
you
Gina,
bet.
and thanks Ken for the invite. Much appreciated. Great to meet you,
Absolutely.
Gina.
Beautiful work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
asking.
Ken.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good to see you, Gina.
Thank
You
you.
too. And
Thanks.
thanks. We'll see you all soon, hopefully.
Thanks,
Like-
Gina. Thanks, Ken.
You're welcome.
As they all shut off their
Well,
little
I'm just hanging out in case any of my students have any
question.
Thanks,
questions
Gina.
or.
See you around the hood one of these days.
All right, Mike.
Yeah.
Bye, Mike.
Good
I
night.
love
Good
your
night.
sweater.
Thank you. I got it on just for you, girl.
See you, Mike.
Take care.
So I should shut down so your kids can ask questions that they don't want me to hear.
No, I think they're all gone.
Oh,
Barry,
okay.
Barry is hanging out.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Yeah.
still here.
King and I are still
Yeah,
here.
oh, Barry and Rob and
you still up?
Heather.
Oh,
I can hear Bing in the background. So
yeah,
they're,
Bing's talking.
yeah. All right. Well,
We're in the lab.
any last final questions for Gina or?
I don't think so, but I sure enjoyed the demo. It was great. Thank
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, much,
Yeah. You're
much
awesome.
appreciated, Gina. It's great meeting you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun. I hope I'll try and get back and be part of the other demos watching.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
have so far.
I don't know what, at one point I thought, well, this is really fun. Why can't we share this with, some more people? And I invited a few, and then, they worked out really well. And I thought, well, shoot, yeah, let's just do that. And yeah, I'm sorry Al didn't join either. He never responded. To my message. So
Oh.
I
Well,
don't know.
he's not he's sort of computer savvy, but I would suspect that, well, he is on social media a lot.
I mean, he's a lot of one-liners on
Oh,
Facebook.
he is.
So
He
I
gets
figured,
some pretty angry people.
what's that?
He gets some pretty angry people because he doesn't have any problem saying what he needs to say.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's had. I've never known him to have a filter.
No. No. That's a good thing, right?
And
Lucky
yeah,
strike.
I really don't know him well at all, but the few times that I've partied with him has been a lot of fun.
Oh, I fired a kiln with him, and I didn't know who he was from Adam, and I just knew that everybody loved him. And I'm up there on the side stoke, and I'm throwing. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. It wasn't the first time I fired the kiln, for sure. But it was the first time he'd been down, and he was down in the front of the kiln. And all of a sudden I hear this, what the you think you're doing? I'm like, wow, and it's like swearing and everything. And he goes, you're gonna throw wood in that kiln, you throw them in one stick at a time. He was so dang angry. And I thought that the minute he did it, he got this look on his face like, oh, what have I just done? And I started laughing because I grew up with men I grew up with farmers, and that's just how they talk. And I said to him, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. Just started laughing. And we've been good friends ever since because I didn't take major offense from him swearing and telling me that I was not stoking appropriately. And since then, it's been my job to tell kids, please throw in one stick at a time, not two.
I'm going to sign off. Thanks, Gina. Thanks, Ken. Much appreciated.
Hey, Rob, take it easy.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining, Rob.
Yeah. Hope to meet
Okay.
you someday, Gina.
Oh, we
Someday
will.
soon.
We
Love
got to
your
get you to present one of these
Oh,
times.
I love that.
I don't know if I can handle it.
I know
I'm
you
not-
can.
I don't know
love
if I don't know if I'm all that verbal, but yeah,
You have a tendency to get to working and then not talk.
we could give it a shot, Ken. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my jammies on. See you later.
All right, Rob. Take care, man.
Okay, good night.
Okay,
All right. Well, I am.
I get to drive my 80-year-old aunt to a little town an hour away from here tomorrow morning, and so she gets her second vaccine shot.
Ah.
So this is all gonna get put under plastic and looked at later.
There you go. You wake up at 3 a.m. Figure it out. Good
Do
night,
you do
Barry.
Do you do that? Do you do that? You problem solve in the middle of the night?
Well, yeah, usually early morning.
Oh God, yes, it's just the best time.
Yeah. Usually early morning, and it'll come to me.
Minds are really quiet right then, and it's really easy to
As long as I don't fall back to sleep, I got it. You know,
oh,
but usually I'm too excited that I figured it out to fall back asleep.
oh,
But I have fallen back to sleep, and then I
you
I
forgot?
wake up and I go, I had it all figured out. What, you know? No, that doesn't work. That
For some
doesn't
reason
work.
I can remember.
Yeah.
I must be awake enough. I never have any trouble falling back.
Well, thank you, Gina. I'm
You're
so
welcome.
so appreciative.